What if I told you that a man who once ruled late-night television, who laughed and sang his way into the homes of millions, has now lost it all? That the same host who rubbed shoulders with Adele, Justin Bieber, and Paul McCartney, who made us believe in his charm, has become the very symbol of arrogance and betrayal? This isn't just the story of a career ending. It's the story of a spectacular fall. A fall so sharp, so sudden, that it left the world stunned. James Corden, the man who had everything, now stands with nothing. The man who once made millions laugh, who rode the waves of fame to the highest peaks of Hollywood and late-night television, now finds himself on the outside looking in. A career that seemed unstoppable suddenly stopped. A reputation that once sparkled, now tarnished. The world is left asking, how did it all go so wrong? How did James Corden, once the smiling face of late-night comfort, become the very embodiment of disappointment? For nearly a decade, James was untouchable. His carpool karaoke segments didn't just go viral, they redefined viral. His warm, approachable persona made celebrities feel human. He was the Brit who conquered America, the man who transformed a struggling late-night slot into must-watch television. He was everywhere, on award stages, in blockbuster movies, making cameo appearances, hosting, laughing, singing, dancing. To the outside world, he was living a dream. To his audience, he was a friend. But what if that was all an illusion? Because beneath the laughter, the cracks were forming. Stories began to spread. Whispers of arrogance, of entitlement, of someone who treated fame not as a privilege, but as a weapon. The same smile that lit up screens was hiding something else. Something colder. Something real. Slowly, the mask slipped. And when it did, the world saw a very different James Corden. Not the lovable Brit in a car, singing with Adele. Not the cheerful host who welcomed you to the Late Late Show night after night. But a man accused of belittling staff, mocking fans, plagiarizing jokes, and disrespecting the very people who built his career. A man who had been given everything, and then threw it away. This is not just the story of James Corden's fall. This is a story about fame itself. About how quickly adoration can turn to outrage. About how fragile trust can be, and how easily it can be broken. He climbed to the top with laughter, but he came crashing down under the weight of arrogance. And now, the question remains, is James Corden gone for good, or can a man who lost it all ever truly come back? It's hard to believe now, but there was a time when James was seen as a breath of fresh air. A young man from England with no family ties to the entertainment industry, no secret backdoor connections, no inherited fame. Just talent, charm, and a determination to succeed. In his early days, he worked in small roles, musicals, soaps, bit parts that barely earned him recognition. But he persisted, refusing to fade into the background. And then came his breakthrough, Gavin and Stacey, a sitcom he co-created, co-wrote, and starred in. The show wasn't just popular, it was beloved. In the UK, it became a cultural phenomenon, the kind of television that brings families together and stays in the national memory. James Corden became a household name, a star seemingly destined for greatness. And for a while, that greatness seemed within reach. He hosted award shows. He made his way to Hollywood films. His jokes were quick, his smile wide, his manner approachable. He was the funny friend you wanted at your dinner party, the cheerful Brit who could poke fun at celebrities, but never in a way that felt cruel. At least, not yet. But fame has a way of changing people. And even James admitted it once in his memoir. He said, "You start to think you're cooler than you are." That happened to me. A small confession, but a telling one. The first crack in his image came in 2010, when he hosted the Glamour Women of the Year Awards. A night meant to celebrate, to uplift, to honor women across industries. And yet, it turned into something else. When veteran actor Sir Patrick Stewart criticized James on stage, accusing him of looking uninterested and disrespectful, the world watched. A seasoned icon calling out a young star. It was a moment James could have handled with grace. He could have laughed it off, diffused the tension, or simply apologized. But instead, James fired back. Sarcasm, insults, even jabs at Stewart's performance and appearance. What should have been a glamorous evening turned into a public clash. A battle of egos. And though the headlines faded, the memory stuck. People began to whisper, maybe James wasn't so nice after all. Maybe the friendly host wasn't so friendly when the cameras weren't rolling. Still, he pressed on. America came calling. The Late Late Show needed a new host, and James Corden was chosen. At first, people were skeptical. Who was this man from the UK, and why was he taking over an American institution? But James proved the doubters wrong. Within months, his carpool karaoke segments went viral. Adele, Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga, Paul McCartney, the biggest stars in the world joined him in a car, singing, laughing, and being human. For audiences, it felt intimate. It felt real. James Corden had found his magic. But behind the smiles, the cracks were widening. In one game with Jimmy Kimmel, James was asked a simple question. Name two of his cameramen. Two of the people he saw every single day. The people who stood just a few feet away from him during every broadcast, holding the cameras that captured his every word, his every laugh, his every song. But James couldn't. Not one name came to mind. He stumbled. He laughed awkwardly. He brushed it off as a joke. The audience in the studio laughed too, but not everyone found it funny. For many watching, the moment was telling. It revealed a man disconnected from the very people who made his success possible. A man who smiled for the spotlight, but looked past those behind it. The truth was clear. James wasn't a host who valued his team. He was a man who only saw the spotlight, only cared for the applause. And then came the accusations. Carpool karaoke, the crown jewel of his late-night success, the segment that made him a viral star, wasn't always real. Fans discovered that James wasn't always driving. Sometimes the car was being towed. The explanation given was safety, and perhaps that was true. But the illusion had been broken. For viewers, carpool karaoke felt authentic, spontaneous, unscripted, like a rare glimpse into the humanity of global superstars. Learning it was staged, even occasionally, shattered that illusion. Audiences felt betrayed. And in entertainment, once trust is lost, it rarely returns. But worse still was the scandal with BTS. When James mocked their historic visit to the United Nations, he called it unusual. Then he dismissed their fans, the devoted BTS army, as nothing more than 15-year-old girls. To him, it was a throwaway joke. But to millions, it was an insult. Because the BTS army isn't just young girls. It's mothers and fathers, students and workers, people from every corner of the world, united by the hope and healing they find in BTS's music. To dismiss them was to dismiss their dedication. To belittle them was to belittle their love. And when James laughed, he wasn't just mocking a band. He was mocking millions. The backlash was instant, swift, merciless. Overnight, James went from being a friendly figure to a villain in the eyes of countless fans. The BTS army is one of the most loyal, most passionate fan bases in history. They never forget. And they did not forgive. Still, James kept going. He laughed it off. He apologized. He smiled. But the smiles no longer carried the same warmth. They looked forced, empty. The jokes didn't land the way they used to. The cracks in the mask were showing. And then came Cats. The film was supposed to be a triumph. A star-studded adaptation of one of the most beloved musicals of all time. But instead, it became one of Hollywood's greatest disasters. Critics tore it apart. Audiences mocked it relentlessly. And James's performance was singled out. Exaggerated. Cartoonish. Out of sync with the tone of the film. He became a meme, a punchline, a symbol of everything wrong with the movie. And when asked about it later, James brushed it off with a joke. I haven't even seen it, but I hear it's awful. To him, it was nothing. But to the people who poured their lives into that production, the actors, the designers, the crew, it was a slap in the face. To the fans who had once believed in him, it was proof of something darker. James didn't care. He never cared. But the biggest scandal of all didn't happen in front of cameras. It didn't happen on stage. It happened in a restaurant. In 2022, Keith McNally, the owner of Balthazar, one of New York's most famous eateries, accused James Corden of being abusive to his staff. Shouting, demanding, belittling, over a hair in his food, over a single omelet. The story spread like wildfire. Social media lit up. Suddenly, the image of James Corden, the smiling, harmless host who sang with celebrities in cars, was gone. In its place was a man screaming at waiters. A man humiliating staff over the smallest mistake. A man who, in the words of McNally, was a gifted comedian, but a tiny cretin of a man. James apologized, sort of. He went on his show. He denied yelling. He denied being cruel. He insisted he had done nothing wrong. But by then, the damage was irreversible. People believed the restaurant owner because they had heard stories before. They had seen the cracks. They had witnessed the arrogance. And now, it was undeniable. And so, in April 2023, James Corden said goodbye to The Late Late Show. Officially, he claimed it was to spend more time with his family, to go home, to live a quieter life. But audiences saw something else. They saw a man leaving under pressure, a man no longer welcome on American television, a man who had lost the trust of his viewers. Today, James Corden is back in England, quieter, absent from the spotlight. His name no longer headlines viral videos. His face no longer beams across television screens every night. He is a man burdened by scandal, haunted by mistakes he once laughed away. A man who had everything, fame, fortune, admiration, and let it slip through his fingers. Not because of bad luck, not because of one mistake, but because of a pattern. Arrogance, carelessness, disregard for others. The story of James Corden is not just about one man. It is about the fragile nature of fame. How applause can turn to silence in an instant. How laughter can be replaced by disappointment. How the same audience that lifts you up can bring you down just as quickly. James built a career on charm. But charm without respect is nothing. He presented himself as a friend to the world, but forgot to be a friend to those closest to him. And now, his legacy hangs in the balance. Can James Corden ever return? Can he rebuild what was lost? Can he once again earn the trust of an audience that feels deceived? Or is his story destined to end not in glory, but in silence? The choice may not even be his to make. The audience who once lifted him up may have already decided. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Celebrity Gossip, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe James Corden deserves a second chance? Or is his career truly over? We want to hear from you.